my grandmother for a while on her back, but however one day she devised a vehicle that was soon called the goat cart, later shortened to the goat. Somehow my mother had managed to get an ironing board, and somehow my mother got hold of a pair of roller skates. At the front end and at the back end of the ironing board, my mother fixed the rolling skates so that the whole thing rested on wheels. My grandmother was stretched out on the ironing board with a cloth over her face to protect her from the sun, the flies, and the shame. And my sister and I, we had to steady the cart to stop it from tilting, you know. And my mother pulled it along by a string like a goat. How we laughed. I remember that my grandmother, to keep up our spirits, would crack odd kind of jokes. She would say things like, is it true that a goat on the road is more dangerous than a boat that can't float? Yeah, how we laughed. She also advised us in moments of utter despair to think of something else. It didn't matter what, because whatever we were thinking of, that would be less terrible than the things we saw in reality. As if you could switch on a machine, and then you could see the things that you would like to see, scenes that you would like to see. 10 years later, this would be called television. Of utter despair at that time, I still had no notion, and also years later, I never succeeded in thinking of something else, or pretending not to see what was going on. I have no fantasy. Or pretended not to see when, during one of those roll calls, something happened that would be the end for my grandmother. This time, the camp commander himself appeared at roll call, seated on the horse. It was not the first time I saw him, but how handy it was that a horse had such a long tail with which he could whisk the flies from his body. After the speech, for the thousands of women and children of the Chiden camp, the frog hopping began. You had to sit on your heels. Sitting on your heels, you had to hop like a frog until you heard your blood roaring in your head like a storm, until you felt your heart thumping in your throat or at the back of your knees or in other parts of your body as it was trying to leap out of your body in those parts of your body. Meanwhile, the sun didn't shine any more gently. Meanwhile, the time didn't pass any more quickly. Who can describe the length of a moment? Who can describe 15, 20 minutes when he's forced to jump on one's heels and hop like a frog in a bell jar of murderous heat? To gently grease now that at every frog hop you had to cry out loud, "Frog! Frog! Frog! Frog!" I knew better than to laugh at that. There were women, as a result of this inhuman hopping with its continuous jerking on the organs inside their abdomen, who began to turn themselves inside out. With their excreta, the dislodged organs left their body, and as they hopped, they gave birth, blood, and slime. I'm the one who stays at home when his daughter is born in the hospital. I'm the one who's not moved by the miracle of birth. I didn't want to see my beloved wife or my daughter for her beauty splitting or being split by scissors. Gobblestone that would protrude from her. I looked into the bathroom mirror. I saw my balding skull. I saw my white remaining hair. I saw the dust of my calluses on my face.